Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Made it through another week. They are going fast. Couple things to talk about today. First, I want to talk about a purchase I made at the dollar store, which just boggles my mind. Let's go check it out. Now, here in the States, we have a store called Dollar Tree, where everything in the store is $1. And so when I went in there, they had this. I showed this on the channel a while ago. This is a $1. It's an LED 60-watt equivalent bulb, and it has 800 lumens, and it's $1. And normally you got to be careful with some things that you buy, but this is warm white, which is what I like. I don't like the really bluish looking bulbs. And you can see here, it's a standard LED bulb. But here's what's interesting: if you look at the bottom here, you can see this one's UL listed. They're very rarely do you find a UL listed bulb. And UL listing is it's hard to get that, especially here. So I picked these up, and like I said, they work out great, and they look pretty good. But when I was in the dollar store the other day, I saw this item. I had to stop. Now, anybody that's ever had to buy laundry detergent knows how expensive it could be, and it varies because depending on what kind of detergent, you get something like Tide, it's going to be $6 or $7 for a size, $8 for a container size. And here it is. I was in the dollar store, and it's 64 fluid ounces. You could see there, 64 fluid ounces. That's a half a gallon. Does 32 loads, right? And it's $1. And I'm thinking to myself, and it's made in the USA, right? I'm saying to myself, how can this be? I usually like a certain type, but I got to try this out. And it's just because if I have some, let's say some things I wipe down tools with or something, I don't want to use, waste my good detergent on. I'm just cleaning. I just got to try this out. But I said, how can they manufacture this in the United States here? It says made in, I think it was California here, Buena Park, California. You could see it's made. So how can they make this, ship it from California to where I live, all for $1? And I have to try this out and see what it's like. But it looks kind of soapy. It's thick. It don't look too watered down. I'm going to give it a shot. I'll let you know. But can you imagine $1? It makes no sense. Next up, a good friend of the show by the name of Alex Schoenberg was doing one of his wrenches. You know how we replace this pin sometimes and thread it and drill it and tap it? And he said, he was having a rough time because, these are very hardened. The wrenches are a different kind of temper. They're very hardened. And sometimes you got to be very careful in trying to tap here because you can break a tap very easily in that hole. And we've all had this issue with trying to tap difficult materials. I just want to, again, we try and, cater to the newer beginner hobbyists, things like that on this channel. It's not like a machine. You don't have too many machinists watching unless they want to just do it for entertainment value. But I want to just give you a quick talk on how you can, if you had a situation like this, how you can avoid a broken tap. Normally when we want to tap a hole, let's say we were tapping a hole in this piece of aluminum, and you could see here, I was using this for some practice for some jeweling. But if we wanted to tap a hole, we would look, let's say we wanted to put a 1/4 inch by 20 by 20 hole, a threaded hole in that aluminum. Well, what we would do is we would go to the chart. There's always a chart that you could find online, whatever, and you would look up what's the drill size for the 1/4 by 20 tap, and you'll see that usually it comes up as a number 7. This is a number 7 drill. Now, with this, when you first look at it, you're going to get the average one they give you. That's with a 75% engagement rate. That means that the thread will be 75% engaged when you use this drill size. However, that doesn't mean that's the only thing. If you're dealing with a hard metal like this wrench here and you want to tap this, it's already hardened. Now, ideally, what you would do is you would anneal the metal, make it soft, and then tap it and then harden it again. But we can't do that in our home shop. So we're tapping sometimes harder metal than we would like to. In that case, a lot of times what you do is you increase the hole. Now here's that number 7 hole I was talking about right there. That's a number 7. That's this one right here. Drill this hole, number 7. That's the one they want you to use. But if you move up a little bit here, this one here's a 15/64 drill over here, and you could see that you could still I enlarged the hole. It's not going to put as much stress on the tap, but it'll still be enough to hold it. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap these two holes, and I'm going to show you what the difference is and why you might want to go with a larger bit sometimes when you're dealing with hardened metal. Okay, here we tap the two holes, and you can see one is quite a bit larger than the other, but I'm going to show you here now the difference. See, now when we screw this into this is the one with the 75% thread, you could see here, and you could see there's a little bit of wiggle in there, but that's just normal so that you could screw it in. And remember, this is very thin. This is only, what do we have? Maybe 1/8 of an inch. Very thin, so you only have a few threads anyway, but I'm just doing this to show you. You can see a little bit of wobble there. Now, I'm going to the one that might only have a 50% hold because we drilled a much larger hole, okay? But it's still threaded, and you can see here that it threads in. Now, I want to show you the play in here. You can see there's quite a bit more play. However, it's still going to be extremely strong because the difference between 100% thread and 75% thread is only 5% in strength. So this is still going to be strong as far as pulling out, but for an application like this wrench here where you're making a pin, it's threaded in here. You're going to have much more threading than this small piece of aluminum. And there's a pin holding the other side so it stops the wobbling. So in other words, when you screw this all the way in, it's going to form into a pocket, and really that's all you need. So when you're dealing with harder materials, you don't necessarily have to have the full thread strength that you think you do, and don't take a chance and breaking your tap when, you know, this is all that's necessary. You really don't need any more than this because you're not pulling this out. It's still very strong. That made sense because breaking a tap is no fun. Believe me, once you break a tap, it's drilling them out and removing a broken tap. You know, it's every machinist's nightmare. So if you can avoid that, you know, that's an easy way to do it. Let's get to a quick tool cleanup. I'll show you. Next up, we have this. This is a 3-pound Sears Craftsman sledgehammer, and you can see over here it says Craftsman. You can see that faint lettering. Now, I cleaned this up a little, probably on the wire brush or something. I don't remember doing this. It was a long time ago. I was early in doing my handling on hammers because you could see here, if you look over here, you see them that curve. It's starting to tear the grain up. Now, that's kind of a newbie mistake that I made, and I wouldn't do that now. And I'll tell you, the first thing that annoys me right off the bat is the fact that that's peeling up. And you know what I'm talking about. You've seen it before. If you see that peeling up like that, you know, that could crack your handle. And it's a good fit, but still. And then I also epoxied the top here over the... which I did a nice job as far as sealing it up, but, you know, I put epoxy. I was trying it because I was trying different things, and it held up. I mean, this is a hammer I keep upstate. Upstate, there's absolutely, you know, no climate control, so it's hot and cold, you know, and it, you know, it deals with the elements, so there's expansion, contraction, so I'm proud that it's solid and tight. But, you know, like I said, this was kind of I leave the tools up there. I don't care if they get stolen or something. So now what I want to do is I want to clean up, have some fun with this. And a lot of people asking, what happens if you leave one of my tools out? And this is exactly what happens. You can't leave an untreated tool in a non-climate control area because you can see how the carbon, the rust starts to form. Once it starts to form, it spreads. So we're going to try and nip this in the bud. You see what it looks like. You see the rust developing all around here. Again, I didn't do... Another thing that I'm kind of embarrassed about because it's an early restoration is there's a lot of sharp edges on here, you know. I don't know how I let that go, you know. This had to be a long, long time ago. And this handle, it feels horrible, but you know, usually up there I'm using gloves. I always have gloves on, but it's not a nice feeling handle. Anyway, let's have some fun with it. Clean it up. And address, first thing we're going to do is address those curlies. There's one job that the utility knife excels at. It is cutting off this curly here. And what you do is you take it from the bottom here, from the handle, and just push down. Just gently push like this, and that'll get off all... You see that? That's all you have to do. I don't know why I didn't do it. And see how much neater that looks? You know, that's the way it should look. I don't know how I let that go. But sometimes I look at some of my early restorations and I'm a little embarrassed, you know. But I don't want to delete the video because there are some other good information. People can always learn from my mistakes. But you see what we're doing there? We're going to get rid of that that area, and then we're good. Another thing I noticed, like, again, I probably would have did different, is you see this swell here? I probably would have moved this, if I was doing this today, I would move it down so it rests on the swell instead of I got this area here. I mean, it is super tight, and I use this to hammer rebar, things like that up there, so let's clean it up. Now, restoring a hammerhead with the handle on is always a little bit tricky. You know, it's always easier to do the head first and attach it to the handle. I cut up some cans, some aluminum cans. We're going to take a little strip of this, wrap it around here because we don't want to damage the wood. So we're going to wrap it around, then wrap some tape around the aluminum, and then I'll get to all this. Okay, we finished up with the sledgehammer, and you know, one of the biggest questions I get asked here on the channel from the get-go was, how do you protect your tools from getting rusty, especially since you did a quick restoration or whatever on it. Let's go through that real quick, and let's get to it now. Now, you know my favorite part, even though we didn't restore this tool, you remember what it looked like before we started. And we are calling this project done. Now, you can see I didn't take out any of the nicks or dings in this hammer. What I did was I just took it down to all the rust is gone, all that rust that was on here, and I coated it with a coating of shellac. And the reason is because I'm at what I call a stage 2 situation. I also painted the bottom of the handle, as you know I like it. And to do this, I just wipe it on with a rag, but and then oven bake it till it's, you know, on the furnace till it's nice and dry. So that's good to go. But let me show you what I mean by stage 2 or stage 1 and 2 of now, I consider stage 1 tools you use all the time, tools that are around your house and are in your shop, and you use it all the time. So with those kind of tools, you can usually, because they're used a lot and they're not left outside or in the back of the car or something, a coat of wax is usually ample. But if it needs a little bit more protection, you can use this is called Starrett Tool and Instrument Oil. It's only mineral oil, you know, that's all that's in there. So what I use is I use my 50-50, half mineral oil, half Vaseline. You can see the texture of this, you see that? And you wipe your tool down with this. Just like this, you wipe the whole tool down. You don't have to worry about getting your hands on, because the only thing it'll do to your hands is make them softer. So what you do is you wipe the whole tool down like this, and then you wipe it off with a piece of paper towel, and then you store this just like this, and that's usually enough for stage 1. Anything that's in the house or anything, believe it or not, after that dries, it's not oily on the hands or anything. It's really good. And that stuff protects the tool really good. Now, if you need a stage 2 protection, that means where it's left outside, you're not going to use the tool for months, or you're in a high risk, high humidity, high salt area, then you need to go to stage 2. Now, stage 2 might be a tool that you're not going to use a lot, or it's left outside or in a non-climate controlled area like a garage or a shed or something. Then you're going to have to take that secondary step. And what it is, first you remove all the rust from there, and then what you're going to do is you're going to have to put a protective coating. Before you put the protective coating on, you have to wipe it down with a denatured alcohol or acetone or something. Make sure there's no oils or anything on there, and then you can apply your coating. Now, you know I like shellac. Shellac comes either in a spray like this, or this is the way I buy it, in the quart can, and you just wipe that on with a rag, and it dries in a half an hour. It's dry, and it's usually enough protection. You can also use a polyurethane, or this one here is actually a varnish. Varnish might tend to yellow the tool a little bit, you know, because it does get a little yellow, but the polyurethanes are usually crystal clear. Or you can use a regular clear coat. Whatever you do, you have to coat it like that. Now, what's important to remember is these tools all come from the factory with that type of coating on there, with like a clear coat. So if you start to see rust developing underneath it, you got to make sure all that rust is gone before you coat it again. And then that's usually good to go. I already have one coat of shellac on here, but I'll give it another quick coat of shellac before I bring this up state. This way it has 2 coats on there, and then we'll look at this again next year and see if there's any rust that developed. Anytime you start hammering away on the face, you're always, you know, you might get a little rust developing there, but that's to be expected. In closing, thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend. Take care now. Bye-bye.